They didn't say, "We're locking you in." They said, "Mom, you'll be safe here." That's the thing about betrayal. It never calls itself betrayal. It comes dressed as love, wrapped in concern, spoken through the voice you trust most. I didn't scream when Emma took my keys. I didn't beg when she emptied my handbag and left my phone on the reception desk. I just stood there in the lobby of Maple Court Assisted Living, trying to understand what had just happened. My daughter, Emma, kissed my forehead and said, "It's just temporary, Mom, just until we make sure you're okay." Then she walked out. I waited 10 minutes, 15, 25. Then I turned to the woman behind the desk, young, bright lipstick, nursing badge that said Rachel, and asked when I'd be allowed to leave. She looked puzzled. "You're checked in, Mrs. James. You're a full resident." "I didn't sign anything," I said, though my voice was trembling. Rachel gave me a patient smile. "Your daughter did. She has power of attorney." I didn't cry. Not then. They brought me to room 118. I remember because the door was scratched and the handle stuck. The bed was made too tightly, the kind of tight that institutions favor. The closet was half empty. My clothes, but not all of them. A single framed picture of my late husband sat on the windowsill, a detail to make it feel like home. Except this wasn't home. Home was 417 Oakmont Drive, the brick house with the red front door and the rose garden I tended every spring since 1989. Home was my kitchen table, third chair from the left with the wobbly leg. Home was the house I'd bought with David, paid off with substitute teacher checks and weekend shifts at the library through my 60s. Home was gone. Just like that. That night, I didn't sleep. Every 30 minutes, someone shuffled past my door. I didn't know their names. I didn't want to. I wasn't staying. This was a mistake, a misunderstanding. The next morning, I asked the nurse when I could speak to someone in charge. She said, "The administrator's only in on Thursdays." It was Tuesday. I said, "I'd like to call my daughter." She looked at her chart and said, "No phone privileges listed under your care plan." My care plan? I wanted to laugh or scream, but I just sat on the edge of the bed and folded my hands. When you've raised a daughter who can smile while putting her own mother in a nursing home, you learn real quick that noise won't get you anywhere. 3 days passed. No calls, no visits. Rachel brought me a small bag from my old house. Said Emma had cleared out the closet and sent over what she didn't want to throw out. Throw out. I opened the bag, one cardigan, a scarf, and my old gardening jacket, the one with the pocket that never zipped. That jacket was older than Emma's career. "You're lucky," one of the women said to me in the dining room. Her name was Dorothy. She was 87 and walked with a cane. She said, "At least your family visited. Mine left me here 6 years ago and moved to California." I didn't feel lucky. I felt invisible. They served bland chicken and overcooked carrots. I didn't complain. Dorothy said if you complain, they wrote you up for behavioral issues and made you see the therapist who smelled like menthol and pity. I didn't want therapy. I wanted my name back, my keys, my kitchen window with the bird feeder I filled every Sunday. When I asked again about the phone, Rachel said, "You can use the staff one in emergencies." So I did. I dialed Emma, straight to voicemail. Then I dialed my old neighbor, Margaret. She didn't answer either. I wasn't even sure she still lived next door. I left a message anyway. That night, I took the garden jacket and hung it on the back of the chair. The pocket sagged a little. I slipped my hand inside, absently, like I'd done 1,000 times at the greenhouse, feeling for receipts or seed packets. But this time, I felt paper. Thick, glossy, folded once. I pulled it out, A lottery ticket. I stared at it like it had come from someone else's life. Powerball. The numbers were filled in. Blue ink. The purchase date. 1 week ago. The same day Emma brought me here. I turned it over. No scribbles. No barcode scratches. Still intact. For a long moment, I just stared at it. Then I smiled. For the first time since walking into this place, because in that moment, I wasn't a helpless old woman. I was someone holding a secret. And maybe, just maybe, that secret would change everything. You don't really notice how loud a place is until you're no longer welcome to silence. Nursing homes aren't quiet. They're just filled with sounds that nobody responds to. Coughs behind thin doors, television static, slow footsteps, someone calling out a name that never comes. I kept the ticket in my jacket for 3 days. Didn't tell a soul, not even Dorothy. I didn't know if it was real yet, but something about just having it lit something inside me. I've been cold for so long, I forgot what warmth felt like. On Thursday, I asked Rachel again, "Can I use the phone?" She said, "Emergency only," without looking up from her clipboard.
"My furnace could be on fire," I replied.
She blinked. "You don't live in that house anymore, Mrs. James. You don't live in that house anymore." That sentence stuck to me all day like something sour. At dinner, the carrots were cold. I ate them anyway. Dorothy sat across from me, mumbling about some garden club she used to run in '68. "You've got quiet eyes," she said suddenly, pointing her fork at me. I glanced up. "What does that mean?" "Means you know more than you say." I didn't answer. She was right. I waited until the night nurse came on duty. A younger one, barely out of nursing school, always tapping at her phone. She liked me because I didn't call out at night or ask for pills. When she passed by my room at 10:45, I stood in the hallway, arms folded like I had been waiting hours. "Sorry to bother," I said. "I think I left my reading glasses in my old coat, the green one. Might be in the laundry room. Could I?" She waved me toward the front desk. "Sure, just be quick. Don't let the alarm go off when you open the door." No security cameras, no locked cabinets, just an old phone with a scratchy dial tone. I looked up the numbers manually. First, the lottery website. The winning draw had already been posted. I checked the date. Saturday. My ticket. I matched all 6 numbers. I blinked hard as if I'd read it wrong. I did it again. $74 million jackpot. Unclaimed. I didn't smile. Not right away. I just stood there holding the phone while the night nurse scrolled through her texts a few feet away, completely unaware that 10 inches of paper in my jacket pocket had just changed the entire balance of the world. I walked back to my room slowly, like I was carrying something fragile. And I was. I barely slept. My mind was turning so fast it felt like it might come loose. What could I do with that kind of money? I couldn't drive, didn't have my bank account. My daughter had control of everything, everything. And yet for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't nothing. I was holding a secret so large it could swallow this whole building and spit it out as dust. The next morning, Rachel handed me a schedule for group bingo and a watercolor class. I looked her in the eye and said, "I'd like to speak to a lawyer." She laughed. "What, are you suing someone?" "No," I said. "I just want to draft a letter." Well, your daughter handles all your paperwork. Then I want a lawyer to confirm that's still legal. She stopped smiling. Mrs. James, that's not how this works. It is if you don't want to be reported for financial manipulation of a senior. She frowned, set down her clipboard. I folded the schedule and slipped it into my pocket. Same pocket as the ticket. Later that day, I called Emma again, straight to voicemail. So I left a message. Hi, Emma. Just wanted to let you know I found something important in my coat. Something you might be interested in. Call me. I didn't say anything else. Let her wonder. That night, I sat with Dorothy again. She was telling me about her second husband. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about names, fake names, trust accounts, private lawyers, offshore accounts, anything I'd ever heard in movies about rich people protecting their wealth from the undeserving. I wasn't rich yet, not officially, but I wasn't helpless anymore. And that made all the difference. She finally called back. It was Sunday morning, just after the staff rolled in the breakfast trays. Watery oatmeal, burnt toast. I didn't touch it. The phone on the wall rang. Rachel picked it up and then called down the hallway. Mrs. James, it's your daughter. I walked slowly, not because I was tired, because I needed those few seconds to bury the fire in my throat. Hi, Mom, Emma said when I picked up. Her voice sounded cheery, too cheery, like she was performing for an audience. I got your message. Something important, huh? There it was. No, how are you? No, do you need anything? Just straight to the thing she might want to get her hands on. I found a piece of paper, I said evenly, in my jacket pocket, from the last time I wore it. There was a pause. What kind of paper? Oh, just something I forgot to throw away. I waited, let the silence stretch. People always reveal themselves when you don't rush to fill the quiet. Listen, Mom, she said after a beat. I hope you're settling in. Everyone says this place is top-notch. I glanced around the hallway. An old man was arguing with the vending machine because it wouldn't take his dollar. Another woman was asleep with her chin on her chest, forgotten by everyone. Yes, I replied. Very top-notch. She hesitated again. I know this wasn't easy, but you have to admit, it's safer. The house had stairs. You were forgetting appointments. I forgot one appointment, Emma. Well, it scared me. You didn't even recognize my voice when I called. I nearly laughed, as if forgetting your daughter's voice is a symptom of anything other than exhaustion. You were yelling, I said. That's why I didn't answer. And frankly, I was tired of being spoken to like a child. She sighed. I don't want to argue, Mom. I just wanted to check in. And about that paper you mentioned? I threw it away, I lied. Didn't seem that important. A beat. Silence. Then a shift in her voice, the kind people use when they think they're cleverer than you. Well, good. I was worried it might be something you didn't understand. You know, official. I smiled, not because she was right, because she had no idea how wrong she was. After we hung up, I walked back to my room, closed the door, and locked it. One of the only ones on the floor that still had a bolt. I pulled out the ticket and laid it flat on the desk. I stared at it for a long time, like it might start glowing. $74 million. Still unclaimed. Still mine. I made a list. Things I'd need. A lawyer, proof of identity, a bank account outside of Emma's reach, a new will,
And most of all, time. Time to move slowly, quietly, like someone planning an escape. By the second week, I'd stopped asking when I could leave. Not because I had accepted it, because I'd learned that asking changed nothing. Emma didn't answer my calls, Margaret didn't call back, and every morning Rachel handed me a schedule, like I was a child who needed structure to survive the day. 9 a.m. breakfast, 10:30 a.m. light exercise, 12 p.m. lunch, 2 p.m. group activity, 5 p.m. dinner. They turned my life into a checklist. I sat in the common room on Tuesday afternoon, staring out the window at the parking lot. Cars came and went, families visited other residents, brought flowers, brought cookies, stayed for 20 minutes, then left with relief written all over their faces. No one came for me. Dorothy shuffled over and sat down beside me, her cane tapping against the linoleum. "You're still waiting," she said. It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. "I waited too," she continued. "First week, I sat by that window every day. Thought my son would realize he'd made a mistake. Thought he'd come back and say, 'Sorry, Mom, let's go home.'" She laughed, but it was hollow. He didn't come back. Not for 6 months. And when he did, it was only because he needed me to sign something. I turned to look at her. "What did you sign?" "The deed to my house?" She said it so simply, like it was nothing, like losing your home was just another Tuesday. I felt something cold settle in my chest. The house. 417 Oakmont Drive. The brick house with the red door. The rose garden I'd planted with David before he got sick. The kitchen where I'd taught Emma to bake bread. The porch where I'd rocked her to sleep when she had nightmares. Emma wouldn't sell it, would she? That night, I tried calling her again. Voicemail. I left a message. "Emma, it's Mom. I need to talk to you about the house. Please call me back." I hung up and stared at the phone for a long time, like it might start ringing if I willed it hard enough. It didn't. The memories came at night. Always at night. I'd lie in that too-tight bed, staring at the ceiling, and I'd see Emma at 7 years old crying because she'd lost her favorite doll. I'd stayed up till 2 a.m. sewing a new one by hand because we couldn't afford to buy another. I'd see her at 16, furious at me for refusing to let her go to some party. She'd screamed that I was ruining her life. I'd cried in the bathroom after she slammed her door. I'd see her at 23, graduating with honors, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. When had that changed? When had I stopped being the person she ran to and become the person she ran from? David died when Emma was 12. Heart attack. Sudden. Cruel. One day he was coaching her soccer team, and the next day he was gone. I raised her alone after that, worked 2 jobs, skipped meals so she could have new shoes, turned down dates because I didn't want her to feel like she wasn't enough. She was enough. She was everything.
And now I was an inconvenience, a problem to be solved, a name on a form. On Wednesday, Rachel brought me another bag. "Your daughter dropped this off," she said, setting it on my bed. I stared at it. "She was here?" "Just for a minute," said she was running late. Running late. She couldn't spare 5 minutes to see me, but she could spare enough time to drop off a bag of things she didn't want. I opened it slowly. Inside, one sweater with a hole in the elbow, a pair of slippers I hadn't worn in years, a book I'd never finished, and at the bottom, a framed photo of Emma and me from her college graduation. She was smiling. I was smiling. We looked happy. I set the photo on the windowsill next to David's picture and sat down on the bed. My hands were shaking. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Emma had decided I didn't belong in my own life anymore, and she was erasing me piece by piece. I met Hilda 2 days later. She was 81, loud, and completely unapologetic. She sat down next to me at lunch without asking, looked at my tray, and said, "You gonna eat that?" "The potatoes?" I asked. "All of it. You look like you haven't eaten in days." I almost smiled. "I'm not hungry." "Yeah, well, neither am I. But if we don't eat, they assume we're depressed and make us see the shrink." She leaned in and whispered, "The shrink cries more than the patient's." I did smile then, just a little. Hilda studied me for a moment, then nodded like she'd made a decision. "You're new, I can tell. You still think someone's coming to get you." "I don't." "Yes, you do. I can see it in your eyes. You're still waiting for the door to open and someone to say, 'Sorry, we made a mistake.'" She speared a piece of chicken with her fork. "They won't. Mistakes don't get corrected here. They just get forgotten." I wanted to argue, but I didn't, because she was right. There was another woman who sat alone every day. Her name was Lillian. She never spoke, never looked up, just sat by the window with her hands folded in her lap, staring at nothing. Rachel told me she'd been there for 9 years. "Her daughter visits once a year," Rachel said quietly. "Christmas. Stays for 15 minutes. I watched Lillian sit there, silent and still, like a statue someone had forgotten to move. And I thought, that's what happens when you stop fighting. That's what happens when you let them take everything. You disappear. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, until one day you're just a body in a chair by a window, waiting for nothing. I wouldn't let that happen to me. That night, I pulled out the gardening jacket again, ran my fingers over the torn pocket. The lottery ticket was still there, hidden, safe. I didn't know yet if it would save me, but I knew one thing for certain. Emma had taken my house, my freedom, my name. But she hadn't taken this. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. I hung the jacket carefully on the back of the chair, right where I could see it. A reminder. I wasn't Lillian. I wasn't Dorothy. I wasn't gone yet. And I wasn't going quietly. I didn't check the numbers right away. Not because I didn't want to know, because I couldn't handle another disappointment. The ticket sat in my jacket pocket for 4 days. I'd touch it sometimes, just to make sure it was real, that I hadn't imagined it. A piece of paper. Thin. Ordinary. The kind of thing you'd throw away without thinking twice. But I didn't throw it away. I kept it close, like a secret, like a lifeline I wasn't ready to pull yet. On the 5th day, something shifted. I was sitting in the common room, half listening to Hilda complain about the new nurse who talked too loud, when I realized I was sitting differently, straighter, not slouched, not defeated. My shoulders were back. My hands weren't trembling. I looked around the room, really looked, and started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. The way Rachel checked her phone every 12 minutes, the way the evening nurse Patricia left the medication cart unlocked while she helped someone to the bathroom,
The way the front desk was empty between 10:30 and 11 p.m. every night during shift change. I was observing again, thinking, planning. For the first time since Emma left me here, I felt like myself. Not the version of me Emma wanted, the confused, helpless woman who needed to be managed. The real me, the one who'd raised a child alone, who'd worked 2 jobs and paid off a mortgage, who'd survived loss and kept going anyway. That version of me hadn't disappeared. She'd just been buried under fear. And now she was waking up. On the 6th day, I made a decision. I waited until the night shift started. Patricia was on duty, distracted, tired, scrolling through her phone at the nurse's station. I walked up slowly, arms folded, like I'd been standing there for hours. "Excuse me," I said quietly. She glanced up. "Mrs. James, everything okay?" I think I left something in my coat, the green one. It might be in the laundry room. Could I? She waved me toward the front desk without even looking up. Yeah, go ahead. Just don't take too long. I walked past her, down the hallway, past the empty reception desk, and I stopped at the phone. It was an old landline, beige, scratched, the kind that still had a rotary-style dial tone. I picked up the receiver, my heart pounding so hard I thought Patricia might hear it from down the hall. I dialed information first, got the number for the state lottery website's automated line. Then I pulled the ticket from my pocket. My hands were shaking. I read the number slowly, carefully, twice. Then I listened. The winning Powerball numbers for Saturday, October 14th are Men to Calpus Media presents. I looked down at the ticket. Powerball 12. My vision blurred. I read them again, out loud this time, barely a whisper. 7, 19, 23, 31, 38. Powerball 12. They matched. Every single one. I stood there frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the automated voice loop back to the beginning. The jackpot prize of $74 million remains unclaimed. Winners have 180 days from the draw date to claim their prize. $74 million. Unclaimed. Mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just stood there in the empty hallway holding that phone like it was the only real thing in the world. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. But my mind? My mind went perfectly, dangerously still. This changed everything. Emma had taken my house, my bank account, my freedom, my legal rights. But she hadn't taken this. She didn't even know it existed. And I was going to make damn sure she never found out. I hung up the phone carefully, folded the ticket, slipped it back into my jacket pocket. Then I walked back to my room, slow and steady like nothing had happened. Patricia didn't even look up when I passed her. I closed my door, locked it, sat down on the edge of the bed, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I let myself breathe. Not the shallow panic breathing I'd been doing since Emma left me here. Deep, steady, calm. I pulled the ticket out again and laid it flat on the desk under the lamp. $74 million. I couldn't claim it myself. Not yet. Emma controlled everything. My ID, my bank accounts, my legal identity. But I could think. I could plan. I could move carefully. I'd spent 50 years managing impossible situations, stretching dollars, solving problems no one thought I could solve. This was just another problem. And I'd never been better at solving problems than when someone told me I couldn't. That night, I slept for the first time since arriving at Maple Court. Not because I felt safe, because I felt powerful. Emma thought she'd locked me away, thought she'd erased me, thought I'd just sit here quietly and fade into nothing. She was wrong. I wasn't fading. I was planning. And when the time came, she'd never see me coming. I spent the next 3 days studying my prison, not like a resident, like a strategist. I learned that Rachel took her lunch break at 12:15 every day, leaving the front desk to whoever was passing by. I learned that Patricia always propped open the back door during her smoke breaks at 10:45 p.m. I learned that the medication cart stayed unlocked for exactly 7 minutes every evening while the nurses did their rounds. I learned that security here wasn't about locks and cameras. It was about routine, assumption, the belief that old women don't fight back. They were wrong. I sat in the common room with a book I wasn't reading, watching, listening, taking mental notes. Hilda noticed. "You're plotting something,"
she said one afternoon, sitting down beside me with a cup of weak coffee. "I'm reading," I replied without looking up. "Bullshit! You've been on the same page for 20 minutes. She leaned closer. "What are you planning? Jailbreak? Because if you are, take me with you." I almost smiled. "I'm not breaking out." "Then what?" I closed the book and looked at her. "I'm breaking in." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done being invisible." The real problem was legal. Emma had power of attorney. She controlled my bank accounts, my social security, my ID. Everything with my name on it went through her. I couldn't claim the lottery prize as Olivia James, not without Emma finding out, not without her seizing it before I could protect it. I needed help, professional help, someone who understood elder law and financial manipulation, someone discreet. On Monday morning, I asked Rachel if I could use the phone to call a plumber about my old house. She barely looked up. "Sure, just keep it short." I didn't call a plumber. I called a legal aid hotline I'd seen advertised on the bulletin board near the dining room. Waded through the automated menu, finally reached a real person. "I need a referral," I said quietly, turning my back to the hallway, "for an elder law attorney, someone who specializes in financial abuse cases, someone discreet." The woman on the line paused. "Are you in immediate danger?" "No, but I need to move carefully." She gave me 2 names. I memorized them both. The first attorney's office was closed on Mondays. The second answered on the 3rd ring. "Carver and Associates. How can I help you?" "I need to speak with someone about establishing a trust under a different name than my legal one." Another pause. "Are you trying to hide assets from someone?" "I'm trying to protect them from someone who's already stolen everything else." "I see." The voice softened. "Can you come to our office?" "I'm in a care facility. I can't leave without permission." "Then we'll come to you. Does Thursday at 2 p.m. work? We can meet in a public area, a garden, a courtyard, somewhere that looks casual." "Thursday works." "And what name should I use when I arrive?" I thought for a moment. Then I said, "Evelyn Hart." "Evelyn Hart. Got it. We'll see you Thursday, Miss Hart." I hung up before Rachel noticed how long I'd been gone. That night, I moved the lottery ticket. Keeping it in my jacket pocket felt too risky, too exposed. I folded it carefully, wrapped it in a tissue, and tucked it inside my bra against my ribs, where no one would think to look. It pressed against my chest like a heartbeat, a reminder. You're not helpless. You're armed. Wednesday nearly destroyed everything. I was sitting in the common room with the ticket hidden safely against my chest when Hilda sat down and said, "You've been acting weird." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You keep touching your side like something's bothering you." My hand froze. I hadn't even realized I'd been doing it. "It's nothing," I said quickly. "Just sore ribs." She narrowed her eyes. "You're lying." "Hilda." "I don't care what you're hiding," she interrupted. "But whatever it is, be more careful. People notice when you're nervous." She was right. I forced myself to sit still, to breathe normally, to stop checking. That afternoon, Rachel walked past while I was using the staff phone. I'd been calling Emma again, leaving another message. When Rachel rounded the corner, I barely had time to hang up. "Mrs. James?" She looked suspicious. "Who were you calling?" "My daughter," I said smoothly. "I've been trying to reach her all week." "You know you're supposed to ask first." "I did ask, on Monday." She frowned, clearly not remembering. "Well, next time, wait for permission." I nodded, apologized, walked away. But my heart was pounding. I was getting sloppy, desperate. I needed to slow down, move smarter. That night, I left Emma another message.
This time, I made sure it would get her attention. "Hi, Emma. It's Mom. I found something in my jacket, something from the week before you brought me here. I think you might be very interested in it. Call me back." I hung up and waited. She called within an hour. Rachel knocked on my door at 8:30 p.m. "Mrs. James, your daughter's on the phone." I walked slowly to the hallway phone, picked it up. "Hi, Mom." Emma's voice was tight, strained. "I got your message. What did you find?" "Just a piece of paper," I said calmly. "I don't know if it's important." "What kind of paper?" "Oh, I don't want to bother you with it. You've been so busy." "Mom," her tone sharpened, "what did you find?" I smiled. There it was. The greed. The panic. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Probably just an old receipt. I'll throw it away." "No, wait, don't throw anything away. I'll come by tomorrow and take a look." "You will?" "Yes, I'll be there around noon." She hung up. I stood there holding the phone for a long moment. She was coming, finally. Not because she cared, because she was afraid I'd found something valuable. I walked back to my room, closed the door, and pressed my hand against my chest. The ticket was still there, hidden, safe. And tomorrow, I'd meet the lawyer who would help me keep it that way. Emma thought she held all the cards. She was about to learn she was wrong. Thursday arrived cold and clear. I told Rachel I wanted to sit outside for fresh air. She barely looked up from her paperwork. "The garden's open until 4. Don't wander off." I wouldn't. The garden was small. A few benches, some overgrown shrubs, a fountain that hadn't worked in years, but it was private, quiet, far enough from the windows that no one would overhear. I sat on the bench farthest from the building and waited. At 2:03 p.m., a man in a dark gray suit walked through the gate. Mid-50s, calm eyes, expensive briefcase. He looked like someone who solved problems for a living. He sat down beside me, without asking, pulled out a folder, opened it like we were discussing insurance. He said quietly, "Ms. Hart?" I nodded. "I'm David Carver. You called about establishing a trust." I did. He studied me for a moment, not unkindly. "You look nervous." "I am." "Don't be. Whatever you tell me is protected. Attorney-client privilege starts the moment you hire me." He paused. "And you're hiring me, correct?" "Yes." "Good." He clicked his pen. "Now, tell me what's happening." I told him everything. About Emma, the power of attorney, the nursing home, the way I'd been erased from my own life. He didn't interrupt, just listened, took notes. When I finished, he looked up. "And you said you found something?" I hesitated. Then I reached into my bra, pulled out the folded tissue, and handed it to him. He unwrapped it carefully, stared at the lottery ticket, then pulled out his phone. "May I?" I nodded. He typed quickly, pulled up the lottery website, checked the numbers once, twice, 3 times. Then he looked at me. "Mrs. James," he said quietly, "this is a winning ticket." "I know." "For $74 million. "I know." He set the phone down, leaned back against the bench, let out a long, slow breath. "This changes everything," he said. "For you, not for your daughter." He explained it all in careful, measured terms. "You can't claim this as Olivia James, not while your daughter has power of attorney. The moment you try, she'll be notified. She'll freeze everything, claim you're incompetent, tie it up in court for years." So what do? We create a legal entity, a private trust, under a different name, Evelyn Hart, if you want. You claim the prize anonymously through the trust. The state allows it in certain cases, and with the right paperwork, we can make it airtight. "She'll never know?" "Not unless you tell her." He paused. But that's only step one. We also need to invalidate her power of attorney, prove it was obtained under false pretenses, that you were coerced, that you're of sound mind and didn't consent to being placed here. Can you prove that? Can you? I thought about it. The way Emma rushed me here, the paperwork I never saw, the lies she told the staff. Yes, I said, I can. He nodded. Then we'll build a case. Quietly, carefully. And when we're ready, we'll file a petition to revoke her authority entirely. How long will that take? A few weeks, maybe a month. But in the meantime, he tapped the ticket. We secure this. We claim it. We lock it behind legal walls she can never touch. I felt something loosen in my chest, something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. When do we start? I asked. Now. He pulled out a stack of papers, trust documents, power of attorney revocation forms, affidavits, everything we'll need to prove your case. I signed them all, my hand steady, my mind clear. When I finished, he gathered the papers and slipped them into his briefcase. One more thing, Carver said, standing. I did some digging before I came here. Your daughter contacted a real estate agent last week about your house. My blood went cold. What? She's trying to sell it, listed it as estate liquidation, told the agent you signed off on everything. I didn't sign anything. I know, but she's moving fast, probably hoping to close before you have a chance to stop her. I felt the rage rise in my throat, hot, sharp. What do I do? Nothing, not yet. He leaned closer. Let her keep going. Let her expose herself. The more she does without your consent, the stronger our case becomes. If we stop her now, she'll cover her tracks. But if we wait, if we let her get greedy, she'll hang herself. I understood. Emma thought I was helpless, thought I'd never find out. She was wrong. One last thing, Carver said, standing. Don't confront her. Don't let her know you're on to her. Act confused. Act weak. Let her think she's winning. She's visiting today at noon. He smiled. Perfect. Give her nothing. And when she leaves, call me. He handed me a card with a number written on the back. Then he walked away, briefcase in hand, Asper, like we'd just discussed the weather. I sat there for a long time after he left. The ticket was gone, safe, protected. And for the first time since Emma locked me in this place, I wasn't the one being played. I was the one playing. Emma arrived at 12:30, late, as always. She walked into the common room looking polished and professional, perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect mask. Hi, Mom, she said, bending down to kiss my cheek. I let her. You said you found something. Oh, I touched my forehead like I was trying to remember. Did I say that? Her smile tightened. Yes, you left me a message about a piece of paper. A piece of paper? In your jacket. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't remember. She stared at me, searching my face for a lie. I gave her nothing. Are you sure, Mom? You sounded pretty certain on the phone. I'm so sorry. I get confused sometimes. I smiled weakly. Maybe it was nothing. She exhaled, relaxed, sat down beside me. That's okay. I'm just glad you're settling in.
Are you? Of course. She squeezed my hand. I know this was hard, but it's for the best. I nodded, said nothing. She stayed for 15 minutes, talked about work, about her schedule, about how busy she was. Then she left. I watched her walk out the door, and I smiled, because she had no idea what was coming. The first thing I did was destroy the evidence. Not all of it, just the original ticket.
Carver had already photographed it, verified it, and filed the claim through the trust. The ticket itself was no longer proof. It was a liability. Something Emma could find. Something that could be taken. On Friday night, after the halls went quiet, I took the ticket to the bathroom, tore it into tiny pieces, and flushed it down the toilet. I watched the paper swirl and disappear, and I felt nothing but relief. The money was safe, locked behind legal walls Emma would never breach. Now it was time to lock everything else down, too. I started keeping a journal. Nothing fancy, just a small notebook Hilda had given me from the craft room. In case you want to write angry letters you never send, she'd said. But I didn't write letters. I wrote evidence. October 19th, Emma contacted Westfield Realty without my knowledge or consent. Agent's name, Michael Torres. Listing price, $425,000. October 21st, Rachel confirmed Emma has not visited in 8 days, despite promising weekly visits. October 22nd, overheard staff discussing family liquidation of my belongings. Emma cleared out the house last Tuesday. Every conversation, every date, every lie, I documented it all. And when I was done each night, I hid the notebook inside the lining of my mattress, tucked into a tear I'd made with a dinner knife. They thought I was frail. They had no idea how sharp I still was. Carver called on Monday. Rachel handed me the phone with a suspicious look. "It's someone from legal aid?" "Oh, yes," I said innocently. "I called about my old insurance policy. Just a question." She walked away. "Mrs. James," Carver said quietly, "the trust is finalized, the money is secured, and I have something for you." "What?" "A letter from a fictional buyer offering $475,000 for your house, cash, no inspection, fast close." I smiled. "You want me to send it to Emma?" "I want us to send it to Emma. See how she reacts. If she moves forward without consulting you, we have her on fraud. If she panics and tries to cover her tracks, we have her on intent." "Do it," I said. He paused. "You sound different." "I am different." "Good. Stay sharp. I'll call you in 3 days." The letter arrived on Wednesday. I know because Emma called within an hour. "Mom," her voice was tight, shaking. "Did you get any mail about the house?" "Mail?" I frowned, playing dumb. "I don't get mail here, sweetheart." "Someone sent an offer, a big offer, for Oakmont Drive." "An offer?" "Yes, from some investment group. Nearly $500,000. I let the silence stretch. "Mom, did you talk to anyone? A real estate agent? A lawyer?" "No, honey. I don't even know where my house keys are." Another pause. I could hear her breathing. Okay, I'll handle it. Don't worry about it." She hung up. I set the phone down slowly, and I laughed. Not loud, just a quiet, satisfied laugh. She was unraveling. That week, I started pushing back. When Rachel handed me the bland lunch tray on Thursday, I looked her in the eye and said, "I'm not eating this." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "This food is terrible. I want salt, pepper, something with flavor."
Mrs. James, we have dietary restrictions. I don't have dietary restrictions. I have taste buds. I pushed the tray away. Bring me something edible or I'll file a complaint. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. But 15 minutes later, she brought me a turkey sandwich from the staff fridge. I ate every bite. Hilda noticed the change immediately. "What happened to you?" she asked Friday afternoon, watching me walk past the nurse's station without asking permission. "What do you mean? You're different. I don't know, taller?" I smiled. "I'm the same height I've always been." "No, you're not. You used to walk like you were apologizing for existing. Now you walk like you own the place." "Maybe I'm just tired of shrinking." She laughed. "Whatever it is, keep doing it. You're scaring Rachel. I love it." By the end of the week, Carver had more ammunition than we needed. Emma had contacted 3 different real estate agents, opened a new bank account in her name only, started clearing out my storage unit without permission. Every move she made dug her grave a little deeper. "She's panicking," Carver said during our Monday call. "That fake offer spooked her. She's trying to liquidate everything before someone else gets to it." "Good. We're ready to file whenever you are." I thought about it, about the house, about the life Emma was dismantling piece by piece. "Not yet," I said. "Let her keep digging." That night I sat on my bed and opened my journal, wrote one sentence at the bottom of the page. "I am not trapped. I am preparing." I stared at those words for a long time, then closed the notebook and tucked it back into the mattress lining. Emma thought she'd buried me, but you can't bury someone who's already planning her resurrection. And when I rose, when I finally stepped back into the light, she'd realized the woman she locked away was never the woman she thought she knew. I wasn't weak. I was just waiting. The hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Carver arranged everything: transportation, paperwork, even a navy dress he had delivered to Maple Court the night before. Professional, dignified, nothing like the soft cardigans Emma had left me. Rachel looked confused when I walked out that morning. "Where are you going?" "Court," I said simply. "Court? For what?" "To take my life back." I didn't wait for her response. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, rows of empty benches. Emma was already there. She sat at a table near the front, dressed in a charcoal suit, hair pulled back, every inch the concerned daughter. A folder sat in front of her, thick, organized, weaponized. When she saw me walk in with Carver, her face went pale. "Mom," she stood, What's going on?" I didn't answer, just took my seat at the opposite table. Carver set down his briefcase and gave her a polite nod. "Miss James, good morning." Emma's eyes darted between us. "Who are you?" "David Carver, your mother's attorney." "Her attorney?" Emma's voice cracked. "She doesn't have an attorney. She doesn't even—" "She does now," Carver said calmly. "And we're here to revoke the power of attorney you obtained under false pretenses." Emma's mouth opened, closed. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her. I looked right back, said nothing. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and tired eyes. She'd seen this before, too many times. "This is a petition to revoke power of attorney," she said as she flipped through the file, "filed by Olivia James against her daughter, Emma James. Ms. Emma James, you're currently serving as your mother's legal representative?" Emma stood quickly. "Yes, Your Honor, I am, and I'd like to state for the record that my mother suffers from memory issues. She's been placed in professional care for her own safety." "Memory issues?" The judge glanced at me. "Has Mrs. Olivia James been diagnosed with dementia or any cognitive impairment?" Emma hesitated. "Well, not officially, but she was forgetting appointments, getting confused. I was worried." "So no medical diagnosis?" "Not yet, but—"
"Ms. James," the judge interrupted, "do you have documentation proving your mother requested placement in Maple Court Assisted Living?" "She verbally agreed." verbally. Yes, she knew it was in her best interest. The judge turned to me. Mrs. James, did you request placement in the facility? I met her eyes. No, Your Honor, I did not. Emma's voice shot up. Mom, you know you did. You were scared of living alone. That's not true, I said evenly. I told you I wanted to stay in my home. You ignored me. Emma turned to the judge. Your Honor, she's confused. She doesn't remember. I remember everything, I said. My voice was louder now, stronger. I remember you taking my keys, my phone, my bank access. I remember you signing papers I never saw. I remember you leaving me there like I was something you could just throw away. Emma's face flushed. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. Carver stood. Your Honor, if I may. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. We have evidence that Ms. Emma James acted without her mother's informed consent. Additionally, she has engaged in unauthorized financial activity, including attempting to sell Mrs. Olivia James's home without permission. Emma's lawyer, a young man who looked barely out of law school, stood quickly. Your Honor, my client was acting in her mother's best interest. The house required maintenance. It made financial sense. For whom? Carver interrupted. He set a paper on the judge's bench. This is a bank statement showing Ms. Emma James opened a separate account under her own name. She transferred funds from her mother's savings without authorization. Emma shot to her feet. I was managing her money. That's what power of attorney is. Power of attorney, Carver said calmly, requires transparency and the principal's informed consent. You had neither. He placed another document down. This is a real estate contract. Your signature, not your mother's, listing her home for sale. I thought she'd want... You didn't ask her. Carver's voice was sharp now. You assumed. You acted unilaterally. And when a private buyer expressed interest, you moved even faster to liquidate assets. The judge looked at Emma. Did you sell or attempt to sell your mother's home? Emma's jaw tightened. I contacted agents, yes, but I hadn't finalized anything. Without her knowledge, she wasn't in a position to make those decisions. That's not for you to determine, the judge said coldly. The judge turned to me. Mrs. James, I need to ask you directly. Were you placed into Maple Court Assisted Living against your will? The room went silent. I could feel Emma staring at me, begging me with her eyes to lie, to protect her, to let this go. But I was done protecting people who didn't protect me. Yes, I said. I was. The judge nodded slowly, wrote something down. And do you believe you are of sound mind to manage your own affairs? I do. Do you wish to revoke the power of attorney currently held by your daughter? Yes, Your Honor. Immediately. Emma's wish broke. Mom, please, I was trying to help you. I turned to look at her. Really look at her. And for the first time, I didn't see my daughter. I saw a stranger who'd learned to weaponize love. No, Emma, I said quietly. You were trying to help yourself. The judge set down her pen. I'm revoking the power of attorney effective immediately. Mrs. Olivia James will resume full control of her legal and financial affairs. Emma sank into her chair. Mrs. James, the judge continued, do you wish to assign power of attorney to someone else at this time? No, Your Honor. I'll manage my own life from here on out. The judge almost smiled. Very well. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. And just like that, it was over. Emma didn't look at me as I walked out. Carver held the door open. How do you feel? I stepped into the hallway, took a deep breath. Free, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. I didn't go back to Maple Court right away. Carver took me to lunch first. A small cafe with white tablecloths and real silverware. The kind of place where no one rushed you or told you what you could eat. I ordered salmon, coffee, a slice of lemon cake. and I ate slowly, savoring every bite. "What now?" Carver asked, watching me with quiet amusement.
"Now I pack," I said, "and I leave." "Where will you go?" I smiled. "Somewhere they'll never find me." He nodded, didn't press, just handed me an envelope across the table. "Your new identification, bank access codes, trust documents, everything you need to start over." I opened it carefully. Inside was a driver's license with my photo and a name I barely recognized. Evelyn Hart. "Is this legal?" I asked. "It's protected," he said. "The trust allows for anonymity. As far as anyone else is concerned, Olivia James is still a retiree living quietly. Evelyn Hart is a private citizen with significant assets and no connection to your former life." I stared at the card for a long moment. Then I slipped it into my purse. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. You did the hard part. I just made sure the law kept up." I returned to Maple Court at 3 p.m. Rachel was at the front desk, scrolling through her phone as usual. She glanced up when I walked in. "Mrs. James, you're back." "I am. How did it go?" "It went exactly as it needed to." She frowned, clearly confused, but didn't ask. I walked down the hallway to room 118 for the last time. The door stuck, like always. The bed was still made too tight. The window still faced the parking lot. But it didn't feel like a prison anymore. It just felt like a room I was done with. I pulled my suitcase from the closet, the old one with the broken wheel, and started packing. There wasn't much. A few pieces of clothing, the framed photo of David, and my gardening jacket. I ran my fingers over the torn pocket one last time. Then I folded it carefully and placed it at the bottom of the suitcase. A reminder. Not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd found. Dorothy found me in the hallway 20 minutes later. "You're leaving," she said. It wasn't a question. "I am." She studied me for a moment, leaning heavily on her cane. "Good. You don't belong here." "Neither do you." She smiled sadly. "Maybe not, but I don't have anywhere else to go." I wanted to tell her she could come with me, that I could help. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. Some prisons you escape, some you just survive. "Take care of yourself, Dorothy," I said. She nodded. "You too, Olivia, or whoever you're going to be now." Hilda was in the common room playing solitaire with a deck that was missing the 3 of hearts. When she saw me with my suitcase, she set the cards down. "You're really doing it." "I really am." She stood slowly, walked over, and pulled me into a hug. She smelled like lavender soap and old paperbacks. "Go live what I can't live," she whispered. I held her tight. "I will." When we pulled apart, her eyes were wet. "Don't come back," she said, half laughing, half crying. "Not even to visit. Just go. Be free. That's enough." I nodded, couldn't speak. She squeezed my hand once, then walked back to her cards. I didn't say goodbye to anyone else. Rachel looked up when I approached the desk. "I'm checking out," I said. She blinked. "Checking out? Mrs. James, you can't just—" "I have a medical appointment, off-site. My attorney arranged it." "Your attorney?" "Yes. He'll be here any moment to pick me up." She opened her mouth to argue, but the front door swung open. A man in a dark suit stepped inside. Not Carver, his associate. Younger, professional,
carrying a clipboard. "Mrs. James, your car is ready." Rachel looked between us, clearly flustered. "I need to check with whoever you'd like," I said calmly. "But I'm no longer a resident here. My power of attorney has been revoked. I'm a free citizen, and I'm leaving." She stared at me.
I stared back. Finally, she sighed and pulled out a release form. "Sign here." I signed, not as Olivia James, as Evelyn Hart. She didn't even notice. I walked out of Maple Court at 4:17 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The air was cold, sharp, the kind of cold that wakes you up. I stopped on the front steps and took a breath, deep, full, real. No one told me to hurry. No one asked where I was going. No one controlled when I could leave or what I could take with me. I was just a woman with a suitcase standing in the October air. Free. The driver opened the car door. A sleek black sedan, warm inside, quiet. I set my suitcase in the trunk, climbed into the back seat, and closed the door. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I looked back once at the building, the cracked pavement, the window to room 118, and then I turned forward. Because I wasn't running from something anymore, I was running toward it. Toward a life I got to choose, a name I got to own, a future no one could take from me. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Where to, Miss Hart?" I smiled. "Somewhere quiet," I said. "Somewhere with a view." He nodded, and we drove. Away from Maple Court, away from Emma, away from everything I used to be, toward everything I was about to become. The cottage sat at the edge of a lake so still it looked like glass. Small, weathered wood, a porch that creaked when you walked across it, surrounded by pine trees that whispered when the wind came through. It was perfect. Carver had found it for me, remote enough that no one would ask questions, close enough to a small town that I could get groceries when I needed them. The first night, I sat on the porch and watched the sunset over the water. No schedules, no nurses, no one telling me when to eat or sleep or speak. Just silence, real silence. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone in it. I started small routines. Every morning I made coffee in the old percolator the previous owner had left behind. Real coffee, strong, the way I liked it. I'd sit on the porch with the blanket over my lap and watch the ducks glide across the water. Sometimes I'd bring bread, the good kind, from the bakery in town, and toss pieces into the lake. They'd come right up to the dock, fearless, trusting. I liked that about them. They didn't assume the worst. They just showed up, took what was offered, and moved on. I wanted to be more like that. The cottage came furnished, but I added my own touches. I hung the framed photo of David on the mantel, bought a soft chair for the corner by the window, filled the kitchen with herbs I planned to grow in the spring: basil, rosemary, thyme. I didn't need much, just enough to feel like myself again. At night, I'd sit by the fireplace with a notebook in my lap, and I'd write letters I'd never send. "Dear Emma, I wonder if you ever think about me, if you wonder where I went, if you feel guilty, or if you've already convinced yourself you did the right thing. I don't hate you. I wish I could. It would be easier, but I don't. I just don't recognize you anymore." I never finished those letters, just folded them up and tucked them into a drawer. Maybe one day I'd send them.
Maybe I'd burn them. For now, it was enough just to write them. One afternoon in late November, I drove into town. It was a small place. One main street, a hardware store, a diner, a post office that doubled as a library. I walked into the diner and ordered soup. The waitress, a woman about my age with kind eyes, smiled when she set the bowl down. "You're new," she said. "I am." "Well, welcome. We don't get many new faces around here." "That's exactly why I came." She laughed. Smart woman. I ate slowly, tasted every bite, and left a generous tip.